Question 1. Operational review demonstrates that the order fulfillment process within the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.5 environment is experiencing significant and consistent delays, impacting downstream business operations. The infrastructure team is tasked with identifying and resolving the root cause of these performance bottlenecks. Which of the following approaches represents the most professional and effective method for addressing this critical implementation challenge? Option A. Immediately implement a series of unverified performance tuning scripts found on an online forum, assuming they address common Maximo V7.5 performance issues and monitor for immediate improvement. Option B. Manually adjust database indexing strategies based on general database performance best practices without consulting Maximo-specific documentation or IBM support, and deploy the changes directly to the production environment to expedite resolution. Option C. Focus solely on optimizing the user interface response times by implementing client-side caching mechanisms, as this is often perceived as the primary cause of user-reported delays, without investigating the underlying server-side or database performance. Option D. Conduct a thorough diagnostic analysis using Maximo's built-in performance monitoring tools, review system and application logs for error patterns, and consult with IBM support or a certified IBM partner to collaboratively identify and validate a solution in a test environment before production deployment. The correct answer is A. Immediately implement a series of unverified performance tuning scripts found on an online forum, assuming they address common Maximo V7.5 performance issues and monitor for immediate improvement. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a critical business process, order fulfillment, is experiencing significant delays due to performance issues within the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.5 infrastructure. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to resolve the performance bottlenecks with the long-term implications of the chosen solution on system stability, scalability, and adherence to IBM's recommended practices and potential licensing considerations. A hasty, unverified solution could lead to further complication, increased costs, and non-compliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation. This includes leveraging Maximo's built-in diagnostic tools, reviewing system logs, and analyzing performance metrics to pinpoint the exact cause of the delays. Engaging IBM support or a certified IBM partner is crucial for expert guidance, ensuring that any proposed solutions align with IBM's best practices for V7.5 infrastructure, are properly tested in a non-production environment, and consider potential impacts on other modules or integrations. This methodical approach minimizes risk, ensures a robust and sustainable solution, and upholds professional standards by relying on expertise and validated methodologies. Adhering to IBM's recommended implementation guidelines for V7.5 is paramount to avoid unsupported configurations that could lead to future issues or void support agreements. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a quick fix without thorough analysis is professionally unacceptable. This could involve making undocumented configuration changes or applying patches without understanding their full impact. Such actions violate the principle of due diligence and risk introducing new, unforeseen problems, potentially leading to data corruption or system instability. This approach also bypasses established change management processes, which are often implicitly or explicitly required by organizational policies and can be considered an ethical lapse in responsible system management. Applying a solution based solely on anecdotal evidence or common assumptions without empirical validation is also professionally unsound. This bypasses the critical step of root cause analysis, leading to a potential misdiagnosis and an ineffective or even detrimental solution. This can result in wasted resources and continued operational disruption, failing to meet the professional obligation to deliver effective and efficient solutions. Ignoring the potential impact on other integrated systems or downstream processes is another significant failure. Maximo often operates within a larger ecosystem. A solution that resolves one issue but creates problems elsewhere demonstrates a lack of holistic system understanding and can lead to cascading failures, impacting other business functions and eroding trust in the IT implementation team. This oversight can have significant business and financial repercussions. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such implementation challenges by first establishing a clear understanding of the problem through comprehensive diagnostics. This involves utilizing available tools and documentation. Next, they should consult with subject matter experts, including the vendor, IBM, or certified partners, to leverage their knowledge and experience. A structured approach to solution design, testing in a controlled environment, and a formal change management process are essential to mitigate risks. Finally, continuous monitoring and validation after implementation are critical to ensure the solution's effectiveness and stability. This systematic and collaborative approach ensures that solutions are not only effective, but also sustainable and compliant with best practices. Question 2. Implementation of a critical performance tuning initiative for IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure requires a strategic approach to address user-reported slowdowns across multiple modules. Which of the following methodologies best ensures system stability, auditability, and effective resolution of performance bottlenecks? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis. Identify specific areas of degradation through targeted monitoring. Implement incremental changes with rigorous testing and rollback procedures, and document all modifications. Option B. Immediately apply a series of widely recommended, but untested, configuration tweaks across all Maximo application servers based on forum discussions to quickly address user complaints. Option C. Focus solely on increasing hardware resources, such as RAM and CPU, for the Maximo servers without first diagnosing the specific software or database components causing the performance issues. Option D. Implement performance tuning changes during peak business hours to minimize disruption to end users, making ad hoc adjustments as issues arise. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis. Identify specific areas of degradation through targeted monitoring. Implement incremental changes with rigorous testing and rollback procedures, and document all modifications. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of data integrity and system availability in an enterprise asset management system like IBM Maximo. The need to balance immediate operational demands with long-term system stability and compliance requires careful judgment. The chosen topic for this question is system performance tuning and optimization, as it directly relates to the infrastructure implementation of Maximo V7. 5. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven methodology for performance tuning. This involves establishing baseline metrics, identifying specific bottlenecks through monitoring, and implementing changes in a controlled, phased manner with thorough testing and rollback plans. This aligns with general IT best practices for system management, and in a regulated environment, would support auditability and demonstrate due diligence in maintaining system integrity and availability, which are often implicit or explicit requirements in compliance frameworks related to operational continuity and data accuracy. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reactive adjustments without understanding the root cause is professionally unacceptable. This can lead to unintended consequences, such as introducing new performance issues or destabilizing the system, potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, or operational continuity requirements. Another incorrect approach, which involves making broad, undocumented changes based on anecdotal evidence, fails to provide a traceable history of modifications. This lack of documentation is a significant ethical and professional failing, hindering troubleshooting, compliance audits, and knowledge transfer. It also risks introducing non-compliant configurations or security vulnerabilities. A third incorrect approach, which delays necessary performance tuning due to perceived resource constraints without a clear plan for addressing those constraints, demonstrates a failure to proactively manage system health and can lead to progressive degradation of service, impacting business operations and potentially violating regulatory obligations related to system performance and availability. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that includes understanding the business impact of performance issues, gathering objective data through monitoring tools, prioritizing tuning efforts based on identified bottlenecks and their impact, implementing changes in a controlled and documented manner, and continuously monitoring the system post-change. This iterative process ensures that performance improvements are achieved sustainably and without compromising system stability or compliance. Question 3. The efficiency study reveals that a significant number of asset records in IBM Maximo V7.5 contain redundant or outdated information due to manual data entry over several years. The study proposes a streamlined data cleansing process that involves directly modifying the database tables to remove these inconsistencies, bypassing the standard Maximo user interface and its associated audit logs for these specific modifications. This approach promises substantial time savings for the implementation team. Option A. Advise the project sponsor that the efficiency study's findings are valid, but that the proposed method of direct database modification is not compliant with best practices for system integrity, and recommend a phased approach to data cleansing using the standard Maximo interface, prioritizing the most critical asset data. Option B. Proceed with the direct database modification as proposed, as the efficiency gains are significant and the risk of data corruption is minimal given the team's expertise. Option C. Implement the proposed data cleansing process by directly modifying database tables, ensuring the changes are thoroughly documented in a separate log maintained by the implementation team. Option D. Reject the proposed data cleansing process due to the bypass of standard Maximo audit trails, and instead initiate a formal change request to develop a custom data cleansing utility within the Maximo application itself, even if it requires more time and resources. The correct answer is C. Implement the proposed data cleansing process by directly modifying database tables, ensuring the changes are thoroughly documented in a separate log maintained by the implementation team. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it pits the desire for immediate cost savings against the long-term integrity of asset management data and the potential for regulatory noncompliance. The core tension lies in balancing operational efficiency with the ethical obligation to maintain accurate and reliable system records, which are foundational to compliance with various regulations governing asset lifecycle management and financial reporting. Careful judgment is required to navigate the pressure to reduce costs without compromising the trustworthiness of the IBM Maximo system. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data integrity and adherence to establish change management processes. By documenting the proposed changes, assessing their impact, and seeking formal approval, the implementation team upholds the principles of good governance and responsible system administration. This aligns with the implicit regulatory expectation that its systems supporting critical business functions, such as asset management, should be managed in a controlled and auditable manner. While the specific regulations for C2010-501 are focused on IBM Maximo V7.5 infrastructure implementation, the underlying principles of data accuracy and controlled change are universally applicable in regulated environments. Maintaining accurate records ensures that audits, compliance checks, and future system enhancements are based on reliable information, preventing potential penalties or operational disruptions stemming from inaccurate asset data. An incorrect approach that involves directly implementing the suggested changes without proper documentation or approval fails to adhere to fundamental IT governance principles. This can lead to a loss of audit trails, making it impossible to trace the origin of data discrepancies or unauthorized modifications. Such actions could be construed as a violation of internal control policies and potentially regulatory requirements that mandate accurate record-keeping and system change control. Another incorrect approach, which involves ignoring the efficiency study's findings due to fear of complexity, represents a failure to proactively manage the asset management system. This inaction can lead to continued inefficiencies and potentially missed opportunities for improvement, which, while not a direct regulatory violation, is professionally suboptimal and can indirectly impact compliance by allowing system degradation. A further incorrect approach, which involves making superficial changes without understanding their full implications, is also professionally unacceptable. This can introduce subtle data errors or system vulnerabilities that may not be immediately apparent but can have significant downstream consequences for reporting, decision-making, and compliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the proposed change and its rationale. 2. Assess the potential impact on data integrity, system functionality, and compliance. 3. Document the proposed change, including its objectives and expected outcomes. 4. Follow established change management procedures, including risk assessment and approval workflows. 5. Implement changes in a controlled environment and verify their successful execution. 6. Maintain comprehensive audit trails of all system modifications. Question 4. Governance review demonstrates that a critical IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.5 infrastructure update, essential for upcoming regulatory compliance reporting, is scheduled for deployment next week. The project manager, under significant pressure to meet the deadline, is considering bypassing the mandatory security review process for this update, arguing that the delay would jeopardize the compliance deadline. What is the most appropriate course of action for the project manager? Option A. Proceed with the update without the security review, documenting the decision and the rationale for potential future audits. Option B. Defer the security review until after the update is deployed, planning to address any identified vulnerabilities in a subsequent patch. Option C. Adhere to the established governance framework by submitting the update for a full security review, and if the review causes a delay, escalate the compliance risk to stakeholders. Option D. Submit a streamlined security review request, providing only the most critical security-related changes to expedite the process. Correct answer is A. Proceed with the update without the security review, documenting the decision and the rationale for potential future audits. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge stemming from a potential conflict between immediate project needs and established governance procedures. The project manager faces pressure to deliver a critical update, but the proposed solution bypasses a mandatory security review. This creates a dilemma where expediency clashes with the fundamental requirement for due diligence and risk mitigation, which are paramount in maintaining system integrity and compliance. The challenge lies in balancing project timelines with the non-negotiable need for robust security practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established governance framework, which mandates a security review for all system changes, especially those impacting critical infrastructure, like IBM Maximo. This aligns with best professional practice by prioritizing risk management and compliance. In the context of IBM Maximo v7.5 infrastructure implementation, this would involve following documented change management processes, including submitting the proposed update for a thorough security assessment by the designated security team. This ensures that potential vulnerabilities are identified and addressed before deployment, safeguarding the asset management system and the data it manages from security breaches and operational disruptions. This approach upholds the principles of accountability and due diligence inherent in IT governance. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the update without the mandatory security review, citing project urgency. This represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It directly violates established governance protocols, which are designed to prevent security incidents and ensure system stability. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for the organization's security posture and the potential consequences of a compromised system, such as data loss, financial penalties, or reputational damage. This bypasses the established risk assessment process, leaving the organization exposed to unforeseen threats. Another incorrect approach is to attempt to expedite the security review by minimizing the scope of documentation submitted to the security team, hoping to get a quicker approval. While seemingly an attempt to balance speed and compliance, this is still a failure. It undermines the integrity of the security review process by providing incomplete information, which could lead to a superficial assessment and the overlooking of critical security flaws. This approach is ethically questionable as it manipulates the process rather than engaging with it transparently and fully. A third incorrect approach involves deferring the security review to a later date, post-implementation, with the intention of addressing any findings then. This is a dangerous and unacceptable practice. It is a direct contravention of the principle of proactive risk management. Post-implementation security reviews are often less effective and more costly to rectify issues discovered after a system is live and potentially exposed. This approach prioritizes short-term gains over long-term system security and compliance, creating a significant liability for the organization. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such dilemmas should first consult the organization's established governance policies and procedures. If a conflict arises between project demands and these policies, the professional should escalate the issue to their direct manager and the relevant governance body, e.g., Change Advisory Board Security Officer. The decision-making process should prioritize adherence to established protocols, risk mitigation, and transparent communication. The professional should clearly articulate the risks associated with deviating from the approved processes and advocate for solutions that uphold both project objectives and governance requirements. Question 5. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to potential data integrity issues during the implementation of IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. If the implementation team discovers significant discrepancies in the asset data that could impact operational reporting and regulatory compliance, what is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with the implementation as scheduled, making only minor, superficial corrections to the most obvious data errors to meet the immediate deadline. Option B. Advocate for a comprehensive data validation and cleansing process, even if it necessitates a revised project timeline, to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the asset data within Maximo. Option C. Inform stakeholders of the data discrepancies, but defer the full resolution of these issues to a post-implementation phase, prioritizing the on-time delivery of the system. Option D. Implement the system with the existing data, assuming that operational users will identify and correct errors as they encounter them during daily use. Correct answer is B. Advocate for a comprehensive data validation and cleansing process, even if it necessitates a revised project timeline, to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the asset data within Maximo. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data integrity and adhere to regulatory compliance within the context of IBM Maximo V7. 5. Infrastructure implementation. The core dilemma lies in balancing the immediate pressure to deliver a project on time with the long-term implications of compromising data accuracy, which can lead to regulatory violations, operational inefficiencies, and financial penalties. Careful judgment is required to navigate the conflict between stakeholder expectations and professional responsibility. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data integrity and compliance with the underlying principles of asset management and information governance, which are implicitly governed by general IT best practices and potentially industry-specific regulations. Though no specific jurisdiction is provided, general principles of data accuracy and auditability apply. By advocating for a thorough data validation process, even if it introduces a delay, the implementation team upholds the trustworthiness of the Maximo system. This ensures that all subsequent decisions, reporting, and asset lifecycle management are based on accurate information, thereby preventing potential compliance breaches and operational risks. This aligns with the fundamental ethical duty to perform work competently and to avoid actions that could harm the organization or its stakeholders. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the implementation without addressing the data discrepancies would represent a significant ethical and professional failure. This would violate the principle of due diligence, as it knowingly allows inaccurate data to enter a critical system. Such an action could lead to regulatory noncompliance if the inaccurate data impacts reporting requirements or audit trails. Furthermore, it undermines the reliability of the Maximo system, potentially leading to incorrect maintenance scheduling, inaccurate inventory management, and flawed financial reporting, all of which can have severe operational and financial consequences. Another incorrect approach, which might involve selectively correcting only the most obvious data errors, is also professionally unacceptable. This approach is arbitrary and fails to establish a consistent standard for data quality. It creates a false sense of security while leaving significant data integrity issues unaddressed. This can still lead to regulatory problems and operational errors, as the impact of the uncorrected errors may not be immediately apparent but can manifest later, causing significant disruption and requiring more extensive remediation. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured approach to ethical decision-making. First, identify the ethical issue and the stakeholders involved. Second, gather all relevant facts, including the nature of the data discrepancies and their potential impact. Third, consult relevant documentation, such as project requirements, data governance policies, and any applicable industry standards or regulations. Fourth, evaluate the available options, considering their potential consequences from both an ethical and practical standpoint. Fifth, choose the option that best upholds professional integrity, data accuracy, and compliance. Finally, document the decision-making process and communicate it clearly to all relevant parties. Question 6. Investigation of a critical operational issue within the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure has revealed a potential fix that requires a direct modification to a core configuration setting. The system administrator is aware of the standard change management process, which mandates a formal request, impact assessment, testing, and approval before any system modifications. However, the operational impact of the current issue is significant, causing delays in critical maintenance tasks. The administrator is considering implementing the fix immediately to restore operations, with the intention of documenting it afterward. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Delay the implementation of the fix until a full, formal change request can be processed through all standard review stages, even if it means continued operational disruption. Option B. Implement the fix immediately without any formal documentation or approval, as the operational urgency outweighs procedural requirements. Option C. Initiate the formal change management process, seeking an expedited review due to the critical nature of the operational issue, and proceed with the fix only after obtaining the necessary approvals. Option D. Implement the fix immediately to restore operations, and document the change retrospectively to ensure an audit trail. Correct answer is C. Initiate the formal change management process, seeking an expedited review due to the critical nature of the operational issue, and proceed with the fix only after obtaining the necessary approvals. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data integrity and adhere to established change management procedures within an IBM Maximo V7. 5. Infrastructure. The core conflict arises from a perceived urgency to resolve a critical operational issue versus the established protocols designed to ensure system stability and auditability. The pressure to bypass standard procedures, even with good intentions, can lead to unintended consequences, including data corruption, security vulnerabilities, and a breakdown of accountability. Careful judgment is required to balance immediate operational needs with long-term system health and compliance. Correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the documented change management process. This process, typically governed by internal IT policies and potentially influenced by industry best practices for asset management systems, mandates proper documentation, testing, and approval before implementing any changes. By following this, the administrator ensures that the fix is thoroughly vetted, its impact is understood, and a record of the change is maintained for future reference and auditing. This upholds the principle of accountability and minimizes the risk of introducing new problems. In the context of IBM Maximo, this aligns with the need for robust configuration management to ensure accurate asset tracking, maintenance scheduling, and reporting, all of which are critical for operational efficiency and regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach that involves immediately implementing the fix without following the change management process fails to uphold the principle of due diligence. This bypasses necessary testing, potentially leading to unforeseen system instability or data integrity issues within Maximo. It also creates an undocumented change, hindering future troubleshooting and auditing efforts, which could be a violation of internal IT governance policies. Another incorrect approach, which is to delay the fix indefinitely until a full, formal change request can be processed, might be overly cautious and could negatively impact critical operations. While adherence to process is important, an absolute refusal to act in a time-sensitive situation without exploring interim solutions or expedited review can be detrimental to business continuity and may not be aligned with the spirit of responsible IT management, which often includes provisions for emergency changes. A third incorrect approach, which is to implement the fix and then document it retrospectively without prior approval, is ethically problematic. This constitutes a form of unauthorized change, undermining the control mechanisms designed to protect the system. It creates a false sense of compliance and can lead to a culture where procedures are disregarded, increasing overall risk. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the established change management framework. When faced with an urgent issue, the professional should first assess the severity and potential impact of the problem. If the issue is critical, the next step is to explore options for expedited review or emergency change procedures within the existing framework. This might involve immediate communication with relevant stakeholders, including system owners and IT management, to seek provisional approval or guidance. The goal is to find a balance between rapid resolution and controlled implementation, ensuring that any deviation from standard procedure is documented, justified, and approved by the appropriate authorities. Question 7. What factors determine the ethical and regulatory acceptability of data logging practices during IBM Maximo Asset Management v7? 5. Infrastructure troubleshooting. Option A. The client's explicit verbal consent to log all system data during an active support session. Option B. The speed at which troubleshooting issues are resolved, even if it means logging raw data. Option C. The extent to which client data is anonymized or pseudonymized before logging and analysis. Option D. The volume of data logged, regardless of its sensitivity or identifiability. Correct answer is C. The extent to which client data is anonymized or pseudonymized before logging and analysis. Explanation. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in IT infrastructure implementation, specifically concerning data privacy and security within the context of IBM Maximo Asset Management v7. 5. The challenge lies in balancing the need for comprehensive system monitoring and performance analysis with the obligation to protect sensitive client data that might be incidentally captured during troubleshooting. The core tension is between operational efficiency and regulatory compliance, particularly concerning data handling. The correct approach prioritizes client data confidentiality and adheres to strict data privacy regulations. By implementing anonymization or pseudonymization techniques before data is logged or transmitted for analysis, the implementation team upholds the principle of data minimization and ensures that only necessary, non-identifiable information is processed. This aligns with best practices in data protection, which are often mandated by regulations like GDPR, if applicable to the jurisdiction, though for this exam, we assume a US-centric framework where HIPAA or similar privacy acts would be relevant for sensitive data. This approach demonstrates a commitment to ethical data stewardship and builds trust with clients by safeguarding their information. An incorrect approach that involves logging raw, unredacted client data for troubleshooting is ethically unsound and carries significant regulatory risk. Such an action could violate data privacy laws by exposing personally identifiable information, PI, or protected health information, FI, without explicit consent or a legitimate business need for that specific level of detail. This failure to implement appropriate data safeguards constitutes a breach of professional duty and could lead to severe penalties, including fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore potential data exposure and proceed with logging all data, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for client privacy. This passive stance is as problematic as active mishandling of data, as it fails to proactively identify and mitigate risks. It suggests an organizational culture that does not adequately value data protection, which is a critical failure in any IT implementation. A further incorrect approach, such as selectively redacting data only when specifically requested by the client, is reactive rather than proactive. While it might seem like a compromise, places the burden of identifying and reporting potential breaches on the client and fails to establish a robust, preventative security posture. Ethical data handling requires proactive measures to prevent breaches, not just reactive responses to them. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a risk assessment framework. This includes identifying potential data privacy risks, evaluating the likelihood and impact of those risks, and implementing controls to mitigate them. For IBM Maximo v7, 5 infrastructure, this means understanding what types of data the system might log during troubleshooting, e.g., user activity, system configurations, potentially sensitive asset details, and applying appropriate anonymization or access controls before such data is stored or shared. Consulting with legal and compliance teams is also crucial to ensure adherence to all relevant regulations. Question 8. When evaluating the need to integrate a critical third-party middleware component with IBM Maximo Asset Management v7, 5 infrastructure, and discovering that the only readily available version compatible with the existing Maximo version is no longer supported by its vendor, What is the most professionally responsible course of action for the infrastructure implementer? Option A. Delay reporting the issue to management and continue to operate with the existing, potentially unstable middleware, hoping that a solution will emerge organically. Option B. Attempt to find and install an older, unsupported version of Maximo that might be compatible with the unsupported middleware, without informing management of the underlying issue. Option C. Proceed with installing the unsupported middleware to ensure immediate system functionality, assuming the risk of potential security vulnerabilities and future compatibility issues is acceptable. Option D. Escalate the situation to management, clearly outlining the risks associated with using unsupported middleware and requesting guidance on approved solutions or the allocation of resources for a compliant upgrade. The correct answer is D. Escalate the situation to management, clearly outlining the risks associated with using unsupported middleware and requesting guidance on approved solutions or the allocation of resources for a compliant upgrade. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data integrity and adhere to IBM's licensing and support policies, particularly within the context of the C2010-501. Exams focus on IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure implementation. The core dilemma lies in balancing the immediate need for system functionality and cost savings against the long-term risks associated with using unsupported software components. The exam's jurisdiction implies adherence to general IT best practices and potentially specific IBM contractual obligations, which prioritize security, stability, and vendor-supported environments. The correct approach, which involves escalating the issue to management and seeking a sanctioned solution, represents best professional practice because it upholds transparency, accountability, and adherence to established IT governance and vendor agreements. This method ensures that any deviation from standard operating procedures or licensing terms is formally documented and approved, mitigating risks associated with unauthorized modifications or the use of unsupported software. It aligns with the principle of responsible IT management, where decisions impacting system integrity and security are made through proper channels, involving stakeholders who can assess the broader implications and allocate necessary resources for compliant solutions. An incorrect approach of proceeding with the unauthorized installation of the older, unsupported middleware component is professionally unacceptable due to several regulatory and ethical failures. Firstly, it violates the principle of due diligence by introducing a known security vulnerability into the Maximo environment. Unsupported software often lacks critical security patches, making the system susceptible to exploits. Secondly, it breaches potential IBM licensing agreements, which may stipulate the use of specific, supported versions of integrated components. This could lead to legal repercussions and invalidation of support contracts. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for established IT policies and a lack of professional integrity by circumventing proper approval processes. Another incorrect approach, that of delaying the upgrade and hoping the issue resolves itself, is also professionally unsound. This passive stance fails to address a known risk and can lead to a more severe problem down the line, potentially impacting business operations. It demonstrates a lack of proactive problem solving and a failure to manage risk effectively. This inaction could also be seen as a dereliction of duty, as the IT professional is aware of a potential system vulnerability. A third incorrect approach, attempting to hide the issue and implement the unsupported component without informing management, is a severe ethical and professional breach. This constitutes dishonesty and a deliberate attempt to mislead stakeholders. It undermines trust within the organization and creates a significant liability for both the individual and the company. Such actions directly contravene the ethical codes of conduct expected of IT professionals, which emphasize honesty, integrity, and transparency. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. First, identify the problem and its potential impact. Second, explore all available compliance solutions, consulting vendor documentation and support channels. Third, if a compliant solution is not immediately feasible, formally document the risks and propose a mitigation plan, including the potential need for temporary workarounds with clear timelines for remediation. Fourth, escalate the issue to appropriate management levels, providing clear, concise information about the risks, potential solutions, and resource requirements. Finally, adhere to management's decision and ensure all actions are documented. Question 9. Market research demonstrates that many organizations struggle to effectively optimize their asset management processes within existing IBM Maximo V7. 5. Infrastructure. Considering the need for continuous improvement and operational efficiency, which of the following strategies best aligns with professional best practices for implementing process optimization in this environment? Option A. Conduct a pilot program focusing on a specific, high-impact asset class or workflow, thoroughly testing and refining the optimization strategy before a phased rollout to other areas. Option B. Prioritize the adoption of the latest, most advanced optimization modules available for Maximo, regardless of current infrastructure compatibility or user training needs, to leverage cutting-edge technology. Option C. Focus solely on reducing operational costs associated with asset management by streamlining processes without a thorough analysis of potential impacts on data accuracy or long-term system performance. Option D. Implement a comprehensive, system-wide overhaul of all asset management workflows simultaneously to achieve maximum immediate impact and efficiency gains across the entire organization. The correct answer is D. Implement a comprehensive, system-wide overhaul of all asset management workflows simultaneously to achieve maximum immediate impact and efficiency gains across the entire organization. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in asset management, balancing the need for process optimization with the constraints of existing infrastructure and regulatory compliance. The professional challenge lies in identifying and implementing improvements that yield tangible benefits without introducing undue risk or violating established operational procedures and data integrity standards, which are implicitly governed by the principles of good asset management practice as expected within the context of IBM Maximo V7. 5. Implementation guidelines. The core of the challenge is to move beyond superficial changes to achieve sustainable efficiency gains. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a data-driven, phased implementation of process optimization. This aligns with the principles of responsible system management and continuous improvement. By starting with a pilot program, it allows for controlled testing and validation of proposed changes within a limited scope. This minimizes disruption to ongoing operations and provides an opportunity to gather feedback and refine the optimization strategy for a full-scale rollout. This methodical approach ensures that changes are robust, effective, and integrated seamlessly, adhering to the implicit requirement for systematic and controlled system evolution within the IBM Maximo framework. It also respects the need for thorough testing and validation before widespread deployment, a cornerstone of reliable IT infrastructure management. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid, broad implementation without adequate testing or pilot phases would be professionally unacceptable. Such an approach risks introducing unforeseen errors, system instability, or data corruption, which could lead to operational downtime and financial losses. This would violate the implicit ethical obligation to maintain system integrity and operational continuity. Another incorrect approach that neglects to involve end users and stakeholders in the optimization process would also be professionally deficient. This oversight can lead to solutions that are technically sound but practically unworkable, failing to address the actual needs and workflows of the users. This disregard for user adoption and practical usability undermines the very purpose of process optimization and can lead to resistance and, ultimately, the failure of the implemented changes. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes cost reduction over proven effectiveness without a clear understanding of the long-term implications would be professionally unsound. This could lead to the adoption of suboptimal solutions that do not deliver the desired efficiency gains or, worse, introduce new problems, thereby failing to meet the objective of genuine process improvement. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of current processes, identification of bottlenecks and areas for improvement, and the development of a clear, measurable set of objectives for optimization. This should be followed by the selection of appropriate tools and methodologies, such as those available within IBM Maximo V7. 5. And a phased implementation plan that includes rigorous testing, user training, and ongoing monitoring. Stakeholder engagement throughout the process is crucial to ensure buy-in and successful adoption. Question 10. System analysis indicates that the work order closure process within the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.5 infrastructure is experiencing significant delays, impacting operational efficiency. Which of the following approaches represents the most effective and professionally sound strategy for addressing this issue? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive process mapping exercise. Analyze system performance metrics and logs to identify specific bottlenecks, and then design targeted solutions based on this data. Option B. Focus on upgrading the underlying database infrastructure, as performance issues are often attributed to database limitations. Option C. Immediately deploy a new, advanced module for work order management that promises enhanced automation, assuming it will resolve the closure delays. Option D. Implement a series of broad, system-wide configuration changes based on general user feedback about slow performance. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive process mapping exercise, analyze system performance metrics and logs to identify specific bottlenecks, and then design targeted solutions based on this data. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in asset management where a critical business process, such as work order closure, is experiencing inefficiencies. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of delays and implementing a solution that not only improves efficiency, but also adheres to IBM Maximo V7.5 infrastructure implementation guidelines and any relevant, albeit unspecified in this context, industry best practices for process optimization. The pressure to deliver a timely and effective solution without disrupting ongoing operations adds to the complexity. A hasty or poorly conceived approach could lead to further system degradation, data integrity issues, or non-compliance with operational standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation of the work order closure process within IBM Maximo V7.5. This begins with detailed process mapping to understand the current workflow, identifying all touchpoints, system interactions, and potential bottlenecks. Subsequently, performance metrics and system logs are analyzed to quantify the delays and pinpoint specific areas of inefficiency. This data then informs the development of targeted solutions, which could include configuration adjustments, workflow redesign, or user training, all within the framework of Maximo's capabilities. This methodical approach ensures that solutions are based on evidence, are aligned with the system's architecture, and are designed to achieve measurable improvements, representing best professional practice by prioritizing informed decision-making and risk mitigation. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a broad, untested system-wide change without a thorough understanding of the current process and its performance metrics is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach bypasses the due diligence required to ensure system stability and data integrity, potentially leading to unintended consequences and operational disruptions. It also fails to adhere to the principle of least privilege and controlled change management, which are implicit in robust IT infrastructure implementations. Relying solely on anecdotal evidence or user feedback without empirical data to guide the optimization efforts is another failure. While user input is valuable, it can be subjective and may not reflect the true systemic issues. This approach risks addressing symptoms rather than root causes, leading to ineffective solutions and wasted resources. It also deviates from professional standards that mandate data-driven decision-making for significant system modifications. Focusing exclusively on technology upgrades or new feature implementation without first optimizing the existing processes within the current Maximo V7.5 environment is also professionally unsound. This approach assumes that a technological silver bullet will solve process issues, ignoring the possibility that the problem lies in workflow design, user execution, or configuration. This can lead to unnecessary expenditure and complexity, failing to achieve the desired process optimization and potentially introducing new challenges. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization by first establishing a clear understanding of the current state through detailed process mapping and data collection. This forms the baseline for identifying specific pain points and quantifying their impact. Next, potential solutions should be evaluated based on their feasibility, impact, and alignment with system capabilities and business objectives. A phased implementation with rigorous testing and validation is crucial to mitigate risks. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential to ensure sustained improvement and to adapt to evolving needs. This structured, evidence-based methodology ensures that optimizations are effective, efficient, and compliant with established operational and technical standards. Question 11. Strategic planning requires a comprehensive approach to optimizing asset management processes within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure. Considering the potential for unintended consequences and the need for sustained operational efficiency, which of the following methodologies best supports a successful and compliant process optimization initiative? Option A. Making ad hoc adjustments to configuration settings and custom scripts based on individual user suggestions to quickly resolve isolated issues. Option B. Prioritizing rapid deployment of new features and workflows to address perceived inefficiencies, deferring detailed testing and user feedback until after go live. Option C. Conducting a thorough analysis of current workflows, identifying bottlenecks through data and user feedback, and designing targeted, tested optimizations with comprehensive user training. Option D. Implementing changes based on immediate user requests and departmental priorities without a broader system impact assessment. The correct answer is D. Implementing changes based on immediate user requests and departmental priorities without a broader system impact assessment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Implementing process optimization within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure requires a nuanced understanding of how changes impact operational efficiency, data integrity, and user adoption. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for improved workflows with the need to maintain system stability, comply with existing operational procedures, and ensure that any optimization efforts align with the organization's overall asset management strategy. Without a clear framework, attempts at optimization can lead to unintended consequences, such as increased system complexity, data silos, or resistance from end users who are accustomed to current processes. This scenario is professionally challenging because it demands foresight, a deep understanding of Maximo's capabilities and limitations, and the ability to anticipate and mitigate potential disruptions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and data-driven methodology for process optimization. This includes conducting a thorough analysis of current workflows, identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies through user feedback and system performance metrics, and then designing and implementing targeted improvements. This approach is best professional practice because it prioritizes a holistic view of the asset management lifecycle. It ensures that optimizations are not merely superficial changes, but are integrated into the system in a way that enhances overall asset performance, reduces operational costs, and improves decision-making. Adhering to IBM's recommended implementation guidelines and best practices for Maximo V7. 5 is crucial for ensuring that optimizations are technically sound and sustainable. This methodical process minimizes risks and maximizes the likelihood of achieving desired outcomes, aligning with the principles of effective IT service management and asset lifecycle management. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves making ad hoc changes to Maximo workflows based on anecdotal evidence or the immediate demands of a single department. This fails to consider the broader impact on other modules or users, potentially leading to data inconsistencies and operational disruptions. It violates the principle of systematic change management and can undermine the integrity of the asset management system. Another incorrect approach is to implement optimizations without adequate user training or communication. This can result in user resistance, errors in data entry, and a failure to realize the intended benefits of the optimized processes. Ethically, it is a failure to support the workforce and ensure they can effectively utilize the system, leading to decreased productivity and potential compliance issues if data quality is compromised. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of implementation over thorough testing and validation. This can lead to the introduction of bugs or unforeseen issues within the Maximo environment, potentially causing system downtime or data corruption. This approach disregards the importance of quality assurance and risk management, which are fundamental to professional IT infrastructure implementation and maintenance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization within IBM Maximo V7. 5. By first establishing clear objectives aligned with business goals. This involves a discovery phase to understand current processes, identify pain points, and gather requirements from stakeholders. Next, A design phase should focus on developing solutions that leverage Maximo's capabilities effectively, considering scalability and future needs. This should be followed by a rigorous testing and validation phase to ensure the proposed changes function as intended and do not negatively impact system performance or data integrity. Finally, a phased implementation with comprehensive user training and ongoing support is essential for successful adoption and sustained benefits. This structured decision-making process ensures that optimizations are strategic, effective, and aligned with professional standards for system management and implementation. Question 12. Stakeholder feedback indicates a desire to streamline the work order approval process within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. To reduce turnaround times. Several proposals have been put forward, ranging from immediate configuration changes to a complete overhaul of the approval workflow. Considering the need for a robust and compliant asset management system, which approach best balances efficiency gains with system integrity and operational continuity. Option A. Focus solely on reducing the number of approval steps without considering the impact on data capture requirements or the potential for introducing new bottlenecks in other parts of the work order lifecycle. Option B. Immediately implement a radical redesign of the entire work order approval workflow based on the most aggressive proposal, assuming that faster approvals will inherently lead to better asset management outcomes. Option C. Bypass formal testing and user acceptance procedures for any proposed workflow changes, prioritizing speed of implementation and relying on end users to report any issues post-deployment. Option D. Implement a phased approach to process optimization, starting with minor configuration adjustments to the existing approval workflow, followed by rigorous testing in a non-production environment, user acceptance testing, and then a controlled rollout to production, with comprehensive documentation and training. The correct answer is D. Implement a phased approach to process optimization, starting with minor configuration adjustments to the existing approval workflow, followed by rigorous testing in a non-production environment, user acceptance testing, and then a controlled rollout to production, with comprehensive documentation and training. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in asset management where operational efficiency gains are sought through process optimization, but the implementation must align with established governance and regulatory frameworks. The professional challenge lies in balancing the desire for improvement with the need for controlled, documented, and auditable changes that comply with the specific operational and data integrity requirements of IBM Maximo V7. 5. Infrastructure. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, phased implementation that includes thorough testing, validation, and user acceptance before full deployment. This aligns with the principles of IT governance and change management, ensuring that modifications to a critical system like Maximo are managed to minimize disruption and maintain data integrity. Specifically, adhering to the IBM Maximo V7. 5 implementation guidelines and best practices for process optimization, which emphasize a systematic approach to configuration and deployment, is crucial. This ensures that any changes are traceable, reversible if necessary, and do not introduce unintended consequences that could impact asset lifecycle management, regulatory compliance reporting, or operational continuity. An incorrect approach that bypasses formal testing and validation introduces significant risks. This could lead to system instability, data corruption, or incorrect operational workflows, potentially violating data integrity requirements and leading to non-compliance with internal policies or external regulations governing asset management and data handling. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on immediate cost reduction without considering the long-term impact on system performance and user adoption, fails to acknowledge the holistic nature of process optimization. This can result in solutions that are technically flawed, difficult to maintain, or do not achieve the desired long-term operational benefits, thereby undermining the investment in the Maximo system and potentially leading to operational inefficiencies rather than improvements. A third incorrect approach, implementing changes without proper documentation and stakeholder communication, creates an environment of uncertainty and can hinder future troubleshooting, audits, and further system enhancements. This lack of transparency and control is a direct contravention of good IT management practices and can lead to significant compliance and operational issues. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the desired outcomes and constraints. This involves engaging all relevant stakeholders, assessing the technical feasibility and impact of proposed changes within the existing Maximo V7.5 environment, and developing a detailed implementation plan that includes rigorous testing, rollback procedures, and user training. The decision to proceed with any optimization should be based on a comprehensive risk assessment and a clear demonstration of how the proposed changes will enhance operational efficiency without compromising system stability, data integrity, or regulatory compliance. Question 13. The risk matrix shows a moderate risk associated with potential downtime during the implementation of new workflow automation within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7.5. Considering the need for process optimization, which of the following strategies best balances efficiency gains with regulatory compliance and operational stability? Option A. Implement the workflow automation during a scheduled maintenance window with a rollback plan in place and conduct post-implementation validation with key users. Option B. Deploy the workflow automation to a pilot group first, without formal risk assessment or rollback planning, to gauge user acceptance. Option C. Focus on automating the most complex processes first to demonstrate significant efficiency improvements, deferring formal testing until after initial deployment. Option D. Proceed with the immediate implementation of the workflow automation to realize efficiency benefits as soon as possible, assuming minimal disruption. The correct answer is A. Implement the workflow automation during a scheduled maintenance window with a rollback plan in place and conduct post-implementation validation with key users. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure implementation, where process optimization efforts must align with established regulatory frameworks and best practices. The professional challenge lies in balancing the desire for efficiency gains with the imperative to maintain compliance and system integrity, especially within the context of IBM Maximo V7.5 infrastructure. Careful judgment is required to ensure that proposed optimizations do not inadvertently introduce vulnerabilities or violate the principles of robust asset management as dictated by the relevant regulatory environment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, documented, and risk-assessed methodology. By involving key stakeholders and adhering to a structured change management process, it ensures that any process optimization is understood, approved, and implemented in a controlled manner. This aligns with the principles of good governance and IT service management, which are often implicitly or explicitly supported by regulatory guidelines that emphasize accountability, transparency, and risk mitigation in system changes. The focus on testing and validation before full deployment is crucial for preventing disruptions and ensuring that the optimized processes function as intended without negatively impacting critical asset management functions. An incorrect approach that bypasses formal change control and stakeholder consultation represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Such an approach disregards the established procedures designed to prevent unauthorized or poorly understood modifications, which could lead to data integrity issues, system instability, or security breaches. This violates the principle of due diligence and could be seen as a failure to adhere to internal policies and potentially external regulations that mandate controlled IT environments. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on perceived efficiency without a comprehensive impact analysis is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the interconnectedness of IT systems and business processes. It risks introducing unintended consequences, such as increased operational risk, data corruption, or non-compliance with reporting requirements, all of which can have serious regulatory ramifications. Finally, an approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness, neglecting essential testing and validation phases, is a direct contravention of professional responsibility. This can lead to the deployment of flawed processes that disrupt operation, compromise data accuracy, and potentially lead to regulatory noncompliance. It highlights a failure to uphold the standards of quality and reliability expected in IT infrastructure implementation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic evaluation of proposed changes against established policies, regulatory requirements, and potential risks. This includes clearly defining the objectives of the optimization, identifying all affected systems and stakeholders, conducting a thorough risk assessment, developing a detailed implementation plan with rollback strategies, obtaining necessary approvals, executing the plan with rigorous testing and monitoring, and documenting all activities. This structured approach ensures that optimizations are beneficial, compliant, and implemented responsibly. Question 14. Quality control measures reveal a persistent pattern of unexpected equipment downtime across several critical asset groups, despite adherence to scheduled preventive maintenance. The operations team is demanding an immediate resolution to minimize production losses. What is the most effective approach to address this recurring issue? Option A. Increase the frequency of all scheduled preventive maintenance tasks by 25% across the affected asset groups. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current maintenance process, including failure analysis, technician feedback, and spare parts inventory, to identify specific inefficiencies and root causes before proposing changes. Option C. Immediately implement a new, advanced predictive maintenance software solution across all asset groups to proactively identify potential failures. Option D. Gather anecdotal evidence from experienced maintenance technicians to guide the selection of new maintenance procedures. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive review of the current maintenance process, including failure analysis, technician feedback, and spare parts inventory, to identify specific inefficiencies and root causes before proposing changes. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in asset management, where the efficiency of maintenance processes directly impacts operational uptime and cost. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of recurring equipment failures and implementing sustainable solutions that align with operational goals and potentially regulatory compliance. Though this specific question focuses on process optimization rather than direct regulatory breach. The pressure to quickly resolve the issue without a thorough understanding of the underlying process flaws can lead to superficial fixes that do not address the systemic problems, thus wasting resources and perpetuating the cycle of failures. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation into the existing maintenance process. This includes analyzing historical maintenance records, failure patterns, technician feedback, and spare parts usage. By mapping the current process, identifying bottlenecks, and pinpointing inefficiencies or deviations from best practices, the team can develop targeted improvements. This aligns with the principles of continuous improvement and process optimization, ensuring that solutions are not only effective in the short term, but also contribute to long-term asset reliability and operational efficiency. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of implementing ineffective solutions and ensures that resources are allocated to address the true root causes, thereby enhancing overall asset performance and reducing the likelihood of future failures. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a new, unproven maintenance strategy without understanding the current process is a significant risk. It bypasses the critical step of diagnosing the problem, potentially introducing new inefficiencies or failing to address the existing ones. This approach lacks the data-driven justification required for sound process optimization and could lead to increased costs and decreased reliability. Focusing solely on increasing the frequency of routine maintenance without analyzing the effectiveness of the current schedule or the nature of the failures is also problematic. This is a reactive measure that assumes more of the same will solve the problem, rather than investigating why failures are occurring. It can lead to unnecessary maintenance tasks, increased labor and parts costs, and potential for introducing new issues through overservicing, without addressing the root cause of the recurring failures. Relying exclusively on technician intuition without corroborating data or a structured analysis is also a flawed approach. While technician experience is valuable, it needs to be validated through objective data and process analysis. Intuition alone can be subjective and may not capture the full complexity of the process or identify systemic issues that are not immediately apparent. This can lead to misdiagnosis and the implementation of solutions that do not effectively resolve the underlying problems. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization by first establishing a clear understanding of the current state. This involves data collection, process mapping, and root cause analysis. Once the problem areas are identified, potential solutions can be evaluated based on their expected impact, feasibility, and alignment with organizational objectives. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential to ensure that implemented changes are effective and to identify further opportunities for improvement. This structured, evidence-based approach ensures that decisions are sound, resources are used efficiently, and desired outcomes are achieved. Question 15. Process analysis reveals that a critical asset in the energy sector is showing anomalous performance data with an IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Requiring an immediate configuration adjustment to the sensor input parameters. The operations manager is urgently requesting the change to be made directly by the infrastructure team to restore accurate monitoring as quickly as possible, bypassing the standard change management and testing procedures to minimize downtime, which approach best balances the immediate operational need with the long-term integrity and compliance of the Maximo V7. 5. Infrastructure. Option A. Halt all operations until a full, standard change management cycle, including extensive testing and documentation, can be completed, even if it means prolonged downtime. Option B. Perform the configuration adjustment without any formal documentation or approval, focusing solely on restoring the data feed, and address any compliance or audit concerns later. Option C. Expedite the standard change management process by performing a rapid risk assessment, obtaining emergency approval from the operations manager and a designated IT security representative, and then implementing and validating the change with a post-implementation review. Option D. Implement the configuration adjustment immediately, documenting the change retrospectively after the system is stable, and then initiate the standard testing and approval process. Correct answer is D. Implement the configuration adjustment immediately, documenting the change retrospectively after the system is stable, and then initiate the standard testing and approval process. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate operational needs of a critical infrastructure system with the long-term strategic goals of asset management and compliance. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise data integrity, audit trails, and adherence to established IBM Maximo V7. 5. Implementation guidelines. The stakeholders' urgency, while understandable, directly conflicts with the meticulous processes required for a robust and compliant system. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to the established IBM Maximo V7. 5. Infrastructure implementation framework, which implicitly includes regulatory compliance and best practices for data management and system integrity. This involves documenting the change, obtaining necessary approvals, and ensuring the modification is tested and validated before deployment. This aligns with the principles of good governance and auditability, ensuring that any changes to the asset management system are traceable, justifiable, and do not introduce unforeseen risks. Following the documented change management process, even under pressure, is crucial for maintaining system stability, security, and compliance with any relevant industry-specific regulations that might govern asset management in critical infrastructure. This approach ensures that the system remains a reliable source of truth for asset data, which is vital for operational efficiency, maintenance planning, and regulatory reporting. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the change without proper documentation and approval bypasses critical control points designed to prevent errors and unauthorized modifications. This creates a significant regulatory and ethical failure by undermining the audit trail. If an issue arises later, it will be impossible to determine who made the change, when, and why, making it difficult to comply with any regulatory requirements for incident investigation or system audits. This also violates the principle of accountability. Performing the change without testing and validation introduces a high risk of unintended consequences. This could lead to system instability, data corruption, or security vulnerabilities, all of which have direct implications for operational continuity and potentially regulatory compliance if the asset data is used for critical decision-making or reporting. Ethically, it's irresponsible to deploy changes that could negatively impact system performance or data integrity without due diligence. Ignoring the potential impact on other integrated systems or processes is a failure to consider the holistic nature of the asset management infrastructure. Maximo V7. 5 is often part of a larger ecosystem. A seemingly minor change could have cascading negative effects, leading to data inconsistencies across systems and potential breaches of data integrity that could have regulatory ramifications. This demonstrates a lack of comprehensive risk assessment. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established processes and regulatory requirements, even when faced with pressure. This involves 1. Understanding the immediate request and its potential impact. 2. Consulting the relevant documentation, including the IBM Maximo V7, 5 implementation guidelines and any applicable regulatory frameworks. 3. Communicating the risks associated with bypassing established procedures to stakeholders. 4. Proposing a solution that balances urgency with compliance, potentially involving expedited but still controlled change processes. 5. Documenting all decisions and actions taken. This systematic approach ensures that operational needs are met without compromising the integrity, security, and compliance of the asset management system. Question 16. The evaluation methodology shows that the project team is considering different infrastructure deployment models for IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Which approach best balances the immediate operational needs of the maintenance department, the long-term scalability requirements of the IT infrastructure team, and the budget constraints presented by the finance department, while ensuring robust data integrity for regulatory compliance. Option A. An immediate deployment of the most feature-rich and scalable infrastructure solution available, regardless of current departmental needs or immediate budget implications, to preemptively address all potential future requirements. Option B. A phased implementation strategy that prioritizes core asset management functionalities for the maintenance department in the initial rollout, followed by incremental additions of advanced reporting and integration modules, with ongoing performance monitoring and capacity planning conducted collaboratively by IT and finance to ensure scalability and cost-effectiveness. Option C. A cloud-based solution that offers extensive scalability and advanced features, with the assumption that cost savings will materialize over time through reduced on-premises hardware maintenance, without detailed upfront analysis of integration complexities or long-term subscription costs. Option D. A minimal infrastructure setup focused solely on meeting the absolute minimum regulatory data logging requirements, with all other functionalities deferred indefinitely until future budget approvals. The correct answer is B. A phased implementation strategy that prioritizes core asset management functionalities for the maintenance department in the initial rollout, followed by incremental additions of advanced reporting and integration modules, with ongoing performance monitoring and capacity planning conducted collaboratively by IT and finance to ensure scalability and cost-effectiveness. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a critical juncture in the implementation of IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure. The challenge lies in balancing the diverse needs and expectations of various stakeholders, including IT operations, business unit managers responsible for asset maintenance, and the finance department overseeing capital expenditure. Each group has distinct priorities and perspectives on system functionality, performance, and cost. A professionally challenging aspect is ensuring that the chosen infrastructure approach, while meeting technical requirements, also aligns with business objectives and regulatory compliance, particularly concerning data integrity and audit trails, which are paramount in asset management. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a collaborative and iterative engagement with all key stakeholders. This ensures that the infrastructure design is not only technically sound, but also addresses the practical needs and concerns of those who will use and manage the system daily. By actively seeking input and validating decisions against stakeholder requirements, the implementation team fosters buy-in, reduces the risk of costly rework, and ultimately delivers a solution that maximizes business value. This aligns with the principles of good project management and IT governance, emphasizing transparency and shared responsibility. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the lowest initial cost, without considering long-term operational efficiency or scalability, would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the total cost of ownership and the potential for future performance bottlenecks or increased maintenance overhead, which can negatively impact business operations and lead to non-compliance with service-level agreements. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes advanced features without adequate stakeholder consultation risks implementing a system that is overly complex, difficult to use, or does not address the core business problems, leading to user dissatisfaction and underutilization. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of user-centric design and effective change management. A third incorrect approach that neglects to document infrastructure decisions and their rationale creates an auditability gap, potentially violating regulatory requirements for traceability and accountability in asset management systems. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough stakeholder analysis to identify all relevant parties and their interests. This should be followed by a structured requirements gathering process that prioritizes needs based on business impact and regulatory mandates. Infrastructure design decisions should then be evaluated against these prioritized requirements, with clear justification for each choice. Regular communication and feedback loops with stakeholders are essential throughout the implementation lifecycle to ensure alignment and manage expectations. Question 17. Process analysis reveals that during the implementation of IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.5 infrastructure, the operational maintenance team has requested several ad hoc modifications to the system's user interface and workflow configurations to better align with their immediate daily tasks, while the IT governance team is concerned about maintaining a standardized, auditable, and secure system configuration. Which of the following approaches best balances these competing stakeholder interests and adheres to robust IT governance principles? Option A. Immediately implement the requested modifications by the operational maintenance team, as their daily operational efficiency is paramount to the organization's core business functions. Option B. Establish a formal Change Control Board, CCB, to review all proposed modifications, requiring documented business justification, impact assessments, and IT security reviews before approval and implementation. Option C. Empower the IT infrastructure team to make unilateral decisions on all user interface and workflow changes based on their technical expertise, ensuring system stability and performance. Option D. Defer all requested modifications to a later phase of the project, focusing solely on the core infrastructure deployment as per the initial project plan, and address user requests only after the system is fully live and stable. The correct answer is B. Establish a formal Change Control Board, CCB, to review all proposed modifications, requiring documented business justification, impact assessments, and IT security reviews before approval and implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure projects, balancing the immediate needs of operational users with the long-term strategic goals of the organization, particularly when implementing a new asset management system like IBM Maximo. The challenge lies in the differing priorities and perspectives of these stakeholder groups. Operational teams often focus on day-to-day functionality and minimizing disruption to their current workflows, while IT and management are concerned with system scalability, data integrity, security, and alignment with broader business objectives. Navigating these competing interests requires strong communication, negotiation, and a clear understanding of project governance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a structured, documented process for managing changes to the Maximo v7.5 infrastructure, ensuring that all stakeholder input is considered within a defined framework. This aligns with best practices for IT project management and governance, which emphasize traceability, accountability, and risk mitigation. By establishing a formal Change Control Board, CCB, and requiring documented justification for any deviation from the approved plan, the organization ensures that decisions are made rationally and in the best interest of the project's success and the company's compliance posture. This approach supports the principles of good governance by providing a clear audit trail and ensuring that changes are evaluated against established criteria, including potential impacts on system performance, security, and regulatory adherence. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that bypasses formal change control and directly implements user requests, even if seemingly minor, poses significant risks. This can lead to scope creep, inconsistent system configurations, and a lack of proper testing, potentially introducing vulnerabilities or operational inefficiencies. Ethically, it undermines the established project governance and can create a perception of favoritism or a lack of control, eroding stakeholder trust. From a regulatory perspective, undocumented changes can lead to noncompliance if the system's configuration drifts from what is required by industry standards or internal policies. Another incorrect approach is to solely rely on the IT team's technical judgment without adequate stakeholder consultation. While IT expertise is crucial, this can lead to solutions that do not fully address the business needs or operational realities of the end users, resulting in low adoption rates or workarounds that compromise data integrity. This approach fails to uphold the principle of stakeholder engagement, which is vital for project success and for ensuring that the implemented solution meets diverse requirements. Finally, an approach that delays all non-essential changes until a future phase without proper assessment of their impact on current operations or future project timelines is also problematic. This can lead to user frustration and the development of shadow IT solutions. It fails to proactively manage the evolving needs of the business and can create technical debt. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with clearly identifying all relevant stakeholders and understanding their needs and concerns. This is followed by establishing a robust project governance structure, including clear roles and responsibilities for decision-making, particularly for changes. A formal change management process involving impact assessment, risk analysis, and documented approval is essential. Regular communication and transparent reporting to all stakeholders are critical to managing expectations and fostering collaboration. In situations with competing priorities, a structured prioritization matrix, considering factors like business value, urgency, and resource availability, should be employed. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with both project objectives and organizational governance. Question 18. The control framework reveals a business stakeholder's urgent request to bypass a standard security validation step during the deployment of a new Maximo asset management module, citing a critical business deadline. The implementation team is aware that this bypass could introduce security vulnerabilities and compromise data integrity in the long term. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Escalate the request through the formal change management process, documenting the request, the potential risks, and seeking appropriate authorization for any deviation from standard security protocols. Option B. Refuse the request outright, informing the stakeholder that security controls cannot be compromised under any circumstances. Option C. Immediately implement the bypass as requested by the stakeholder to meet the critical business deadline, assuming the risk is acceptable for short-term gains. Option D. Proceed with the bypass, but document it internally as a temporary measure without seeking formal approval, planning to remediate it later. Correct answer is A. Escalate the request through the formal change management process, documenting the request, the potential risks, and seeking appropriate authorization for any deviation from standard security protocols. Explanation. The control framework reveals a common challenge in IBM Maximo implementations, balancing the immediate needs of business stakeholders with the long-term integrity and security of the asset management system. In this scenario, the challenge lies in a stakeholder's request to bypass a critical security control for expediency. This is professionally challenging because it pits a direct business demand against established security protocols and potentially regulatory compliance requirements. Even if not explicitly stated in the prompt, the implication of a control framework suggests adherence to best practices and potentially industry standards. Careful judgment is required to assess the risk of bypassing the control versus the perceived benefit of faster deployment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the established control framework and security policies. This aligns with the principle of least privilege and defense in depth, ensuring that access and system modifications are managed through approved channels. By escalating the request through the proper change management process, the implementation team demonstrates due diligence, maintains system integrity, and ensures that any deviation from standard procedure is properly documented, risk-assessed, and approved by the appropriate authorities. This upholds professional responsibility and minimizes the risk of security breaches or data integrity issues. An incorrect approach that involves directly implementing the requested bypass without proper authorization or risk assessment represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It undermines the control framework, potentially violates internal security policies, and exposes the organization to security vulnerabilities. This could lead to unauthorized access, data corruption, or system instability, all of which have serious operational and reputational consequences. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of professional integrity by circumventing established procedures for expediency, which can erode trust within the project team and with the business stakeholders. Another incorrect approach, such as outright refusal without offering an alternative or explanation, while seemingly adhering to controls, can be professionally detrimental. It fails to address the stakeholders' underlying business need and can create friction and distrust. While security is paramount, effective implementation requires collaboration and finding solutions that meet business objectives within acceptable risk parameters. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the stakeholder's request and the underlying business need. 2. Identifying the specific control or policy that the request impacts. 3. Assessing the potential risks and benefits of fulfilling the request, including security, operational, and compliance implications. 4. Consulting the established change management and security policies. 5. Communicating the findings and potential risks to the stakeholder and relevant decision makers. 6. Proposing alternative solutions that meet the business need while adhering to controls, or formally documenting and seeking approval for any necessary deviations. Question 19. The risk matrix shows a high likelihood of data corruption during the initial migration phase of the IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.5 infrastructure, with a potentially severe impact on operational reporting. Which stakeholder engagement and risk mitigation strategy best aligns with professional best practices for this scenario? Option A. Inform the project sponsor of the risk but defer detailed communication to end users until a definitive solution is identified, to avoid causing unnecessary alarm. Option B. Immediately halt the migration and initiate a comprehensive data validation and backup protocol, followed by a detailed briefing to all affected business units on the revised timeline and the critical steps being taken to ensure data integrity. Option C. Proceed with the migration as scheduled, assuming the risk of data corruption is manageable and can be addressed post-implementation if issues arise. Option D. Document the risk as low priority, due to the assumption that modern hardware and software are inherently reliable, and focus resources on other identified risks. The correct answer is B. Immediately halt the migration and initiate a comprehensive data validation and backup protocol, followed by a detailed briefing to all affected business units on the revised timeline and the critical steps being taken to ensure data integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation of IBM Maximo Asset Management v7.5 infrastructure involves multiple stakeholders with potentially conflicting priorities and varying levels of technical understanding. The core challenge lies in translating technical requirements and potential risks into actionable insights that resonate with business stakeholders, ensuring alignment with organizational objectives and regulatory compliance. The risk matrix, a standard tool for identifying and assessing potential issues, becomes the focal point for this communication and decision-making process. The correct approach emphasizes proactive risk mitigation and transparent communication, directly addressing the concerns of various stakeholders. By prioritizing risks based on their potential impact and likelihood, and then developing specific, actionable mitigation strategies, the implementation team demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to project success. This aligns with best professional practices in IT project management, which mandate clear communication channels, risk management frameworks, and stakeholder engagement to ensure that technical solutions support business goals and adhere to any relevant industry-specific regulations or internal governance policies. The focus on understanding the business impact of technical risks ensures that decisions are not made in a vacuum, but are grounded in the organization's operational realities and strategic objectives. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical remediation without considering the business impact fails to acknowledge the broader organizational context. This can lead to misallocation of resources, missed opportunities, and a lack of buy-in from non-technical stakeholders. Ethically, it represents a failure to serve the organization's best interests by not fully understanding or communicating the implications of technical decisions. Another incorrect approach that dismisses risks deemed low probability, without a thorough assessment of their potential impact, even if low, can be a significant regulatory or ethical failure. Some regulations, particularly in highly regulated industries, may require specific documentation or justification for accepting certain levels of risk, regardless of perceived probability. Overlooking these can lead to non-compliance and potential penalties. A third incorrect approach that involves delaying communication of identified risks until a later stage is professionally unacceptable. This lack of transparency erodes trust among stakeholders and can prevent timely and effective decision-making. It also creates a situation where potential problems might escalate, leading to more significant and costly remediation efforts, which is a failure in professional responsibility and project governance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach to risk management. This includes 1. Comprehensive identification of risks across technical, operational, and business domains. 2. Thorough assessment of each risk's likelihood and potential impact, considering both technical and business consequences. 3. Prioritization of risks based on their severity. 4. Development of clear, actionable mitigation or contingency plans. 5. Transparent and consistent communication of risks and mitigation plans to all relevant stakeholders, tailored to their level of understanding and interest. 6. Regular review and updating of the risk register throughout the project lifecycle. Question 20. Stakeholder feedback indicates that the maintenance team requires immediate access to core asset tracking and work order management functionalities within IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. To improve daily operations. While the IT department emphasizes the need for a robust, scalable architecture that aligns with long-term enterprise IT strategy and security standards, which approach best balances these competing demands for the infrastructure implementation. Option A. Delay the infrastructure implementation until a single, unified set of requirements that perfectly satisfies both the maintenance team and the IT department can be definitively agreed upon by all parties. Option B. Implement only the functionalities explicitly requested by the maintenance team, as their immediate operational needs are the primary driver for adopting an asset management system. Option C. Focus solely on building the robust, scalable architecture as defined by the IT department's strategic roadmap, deferring the implementation of specific maintenance team functionalities until the core infrastructure is fully established. Option D. Implement core asset tracking and work order management functionalities first to address immediate maintenance team needs, followed by a phased integration of IT-driven strategic enhancements in subsequent stages. The correct answer is D. Implement core asset tracking and work order management functionalities first to address immediate maintenance team needs, followed by a phased integration of IT-driven strategic enhancements in subsequent stages. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure projects where differing stakeholder priorities can lead to conflicting requirements. The core difficulty lies in balancing the immediate operational needs of the maintenance team with the long-term strategic goals of the IT department, all while adhering to the specific constraints and best practices dictated by the IBM Maximo Asset Management V7. 5. Infrastructure Implementation Framework. The pressure to deliver a functional system quickly can sometimes overshadow the importance of robust, scalable, and secure architecture, leading to potential technical debt and future operational issues. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a phased implementation that addresses critical operational needs first, followed by enhancements that align with the IT department's strategic roadmap. This aligns with best practices for large-scale system deployments, particularly within regulated environments where stability and compliance are paramount. By focusing on core functionality for the maintenance team, the project ensures immediate value and user adoption. Subsequently, incorporating IT-driven enhancements in later phases allows for a more deliberate and controlled integration of advanced features, ensuring they are built upon a stable foundation and meet long-term architectural goals. This approach minimizes disruption, allows for iterative feedback, and ensures that the infrastructure remains aligned with both immediate operational demands and strategic IT objectives, a key consideration in any enterprise asset management implementation. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing only the maintenance team's immediate requests without considering the IT department's strategic roadmap would lead to a system that is functionally adequate for current needs but potentially misaligned with future IT architecture, security policies, or scalability requirements. This could result in significant rework, increased costs, and a failure to leverage the full capabilities of Maximo V7. 5. Potentially violating principles of efficient resource utilization and strategic IT planning. Prioritizing the IT department's strategic roadmap over the immediate operational needs of the maintenance team would likely result in a system that is architecturally sound, but fails to deliver tangible value to the primary users. This could lead to user dissatisfaction, resistance to adoption, and a perception that the project has not met its core objectives, undermining the purpose of implementing an asset management system. Adopting a wait-and-see approach, delaying any implementation until all stakeholder feedback is perfectly harmonized, is professionally untenable. This leads to project stagnation, missed deadlines, and a failure to deliver any value, which is a direct contravention of project management principles and stakeholder expectations. It also risks the project becoming obsolete before it even begins. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach this situation by first clearly defining the scope and objectives of the Maximo V7. 5. Implementation, ensuring alignment with both operational and strategic goals. A structured approach involving detailed requirements gathering from all key stakeholder groups is essential. This should be followed by a risk assessment to identify potential conflicts and develop mitigation strategies. A phased implementation plan, prioritizing core functionality and iterative delivery, allows for continuous feedback and adaptation. Regular communication and transparent reporting to all stakeholders are critical to managing expectations and ensuring buy-in throughout the project lifecycle.